Well, there's big news out of Texas. A federal court has just ruled the Corporate Transparency Act, the law that says you need to file a BOI report to the federal government for your LLC, it is now unconstitutional. That law is no longer the law of the land. It is ruled unconstitutional, and that applies to everyone. This case is different than the Alabama case from 6 months ago that said Corporate Transparency Act is unconstitutional, but that case only applied to the plaintiffs that filed in that case. This case out of Texas applies to everyone that is a reporting company, anyone that has an LLC or corporation that has to file a BOI. You no longer have to. The new law of the land is there's no such thing as a BOI, and you don't have to file it. Now, I'm a lawyer, so I care about the details here as I'm advising my clients, and I want to let you know what matters here as to the court's ruling. And I actually read this thing. This is a 70-page ruling out of federal court striking down the law. And it gets into a lot of details here, but I'm going to give you the key takeaways that matter for any of you business owners. The first one is they said the BOI filing requirement is facially unconstitutional. What that means is it is unconstitutional for everyone. See, some court orders say this is unconstitutional as applied to the facts in this case for these plaintiffs. But the court's ruling here said this is facially unconstitutional, which means the judge is able to rule it unconstitutional for everyone across the entire United States, even though this is one judge in a federal district court in Texas. Now, the legal process from here on out is the federal government can appeal this. And I want to get into what's coming next. Can the federal government appeal this? What is FinCEN saying right now? What's the politics of this as we get the Trump administration coming in? So the federal government right now is able to appeal this. Now, they haven't yet, but likely they will appeal this. President Biden is in office right now. He's the one who actually signed this into law. I'm going to come back to the politics on this because Trump originally vetoed the total legal package that had the Corporate Transparency Act included in it. So I want to come back to that. But right now, we still have President Biden in office. You still have a Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, and Merrick Garland, Attorney General, who are defendants in this case that believe in this law. And so they may want to go and appeal this case. Now, the process they would take is they would appeal this to the Fifth Circuit. But they've lost right now. Let me make sure you understand that. They've lost. The law of the land is the Corporate Transparency Act is unconstitutional. You don't have to file a BOI. They're going to have to go win in the Fifth Circuit, and then it could get appealed from there onto the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, sometimes they're able to skip the Court of Appeals and go straight to the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't know that that'll happen here. Frankly, I don't think it will, but sometimes that happens on really important cases. But right now, they're going to have to go to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, they may decide to do that, but what's happening in January is Donald Trump's going to be president again. He's going to be inaugurated, and we're going to have a Trump administration, a Trump Attorney General, a Trump Secretary of the Treasury. And do they want this law to apply? My guess is no. Now, Trump has not commented on this. Now, when this original bill was passed back in 2020, the Corporate Transparency Act was part of a broader group of bills that included a National Defense Spending Act, and Trump actually vetoed that, despite a Republican kind of bipartisan support, this bill getting passed in the House and the Senate. Now, when Trump vetoed that bill, though, the rationale he gave was he vetoed it because of the defense spending. He did not specifically say he had a problem with the Corporate Transparency Act, so I'm unsure where he's at on this. My guess is he's going to come out against it. My guess is the Department of Governmental Efficiency is going to say, why are we making people file this? FinCEN themselves said there's hundreds of billions of dollars in compliance costs for small businesses. And this is a requirement that hits small businesses hard because under this law, what they did is they said, you know what, if you're a large company, you have 5 million or more of revenue and 20 employees or more, big companies, you don't have to even file this. There's a large company exception to this. And the federal government's rationale when they passed the law was, we already know who these bigger companies are. What they were saying there was, we're really worried about small businesses and money laundering and shell companies, but big businesses, you don't have to comply with this. So this filing requirement is hitting small business owners much harder because they were the only ones that even had to file anything on this. So we will see what happens with Department of Governmental Efficiency, Trump administration. Now, my opinion on this is you're going to have the Trump administration, Department of Governmental Efficiency, and they're going to say, let's just let this Texas court ruling stand. Let's pull back any appeals, even if the Biden administration files them. Let's let those appeals die, and let's just let this Texas ruling stand. And the Corporate Transparency Act is going to be unconstitutional for everyone. Now, I'll also be updating on what FinCEN is saying, because right now they've said nothing. They've been silent on this. They haven't said you need to still file it. They're still taking BOI reports at fincen.gov, so you can still file it. But we don't know where they're going to come out on this, so you got to stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll, of course, be providing updates on that. Now, for those of you that already filed the BOI report, and we filed thousands of these for our clients because it was the law of the land. I mean, I filed 16 of these for my own entities as well because there was like jail and $500 a day penalties for failure to file. But if you already filed it, don't worry. That was a private filing. The only way the federal government can distribute that information is upon a subpoena. So don't worry about it. You did what you're supposed to do. For those of you that didn't or that were waiting to see how the courts were going to handle this, good news for you. You do not have to file. Anyone setting up new entities, you don't need to file this either. We've instructed our law firm, don't file these for clients anymore. We're going to rely on this Texas case, which is the law of the land right now. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands this, and I want to be very clear. The BOI that is required under the Corporate Transparency Act is unconstitutional. It is no longer a requirement. You do not need to file it. That is what this federal court has said. It is currently the law of the land, but stay tuned because there may be appeals in this. There's some politics to it as well, as I outlined in this video. I don't think President Trump is going to push for this, so I think it's going to die a slow death, which is good news, I believe, for small business owners, because this seemed like an unnecessary requirement. One more thing you had to do as a small business owner to stay compliant with government regulation. And for more tips for business owners, investors, those trying to build and grow wealth, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm always giving out strategies that you can use to save taxes, protect your assets, and grow and build wealth. I'm Matt Sorensen. We'll see you next time.